Hello and welcome to my presentation on our research on skillful pair programming. My name is Franz Zieres and this is joint work with Lutz Brachet. You probably already have an idea of what pair programming is, but I think it is still helpful to be explicit about it. When we say pair programming, we talk about a work mode. Two software developers come together, physically in front of one machine or remotely connected through screen sharing or another tool, and they work together on some technical task. They do this to get their work done faster, achieve higher design quality, and to transfer knowledge between them. Probably every software developer knows such spontaneous calls for help when dealing with that legacy part of their software. And in some teams and companies, it might even be an established practice that some or even most technical work is done in pairs. All these scenarios we call pair programming. Okay, say you have a difficult development problem. You want a second pair of eyes on it, you find a colleague and off you go, right? Well, it might not be that simple. There are a number of reports of researchers and practitioners stating that pair programming requires some warm-up time. There are reports of gelling and bonding of pairs, and that two developers first need to get comfortable with each other. Furthermore, developers who are used to working alone might need to adapt to the pair mode as such, what it means to work closely together with someone else at the source code level. And, if you believe Ken Beck, this is a special kind of skill which you can improve over your lifetime. But what is that skill? What does it take to be good at pair programming? What does it even mean to be good at pair programming? This is what our current research is about. The topic of skillful pair programming was not the research topic we started with. In fact, in our research group, we've been studying pair programming in industry for over 15 years now. We collect dozens of audio and video recordings of everyday pair programming sessions from various companies. We analyze them qualitatively and in great detail to really dig in and understand what's actually going on. Through years of sifting through the data for different research questions, we could not help but notice differences in how well some of the pair programming sessions went. So, following the grounded theory methodology, we selected a couple of sessions for further analysis. The research is still in an early phase, and our qualitative analysis does not yet cover a lot of data. The first item on our agenda was to pinpoint our gut feeling. What does it mean for a pair programming session to go well? Since we've got a full record of what the developers do during their pair session, we can look at specific actions and outcomes. And we don't have to rely on interviews for developers to remember what they did at some point in the past. It's also somewhat easier to study pairs with problems than those without. So we first identify deficits in some pairs processes and then try to understand what other pairs do differently. What we found were two key ingredients of pair programming. The first one we call togetherness. The pair needs to have a shared mental model of what they are doing, and this includes a number of facets. Their goal and the plan to get there, the many details of the software system they are working in, and various aspects of general software development knowledge. And one part of skillful pair programming is to detect and repair relevant discrepancies in your partner's mental model. The second ingredient of pair programming is expediency. Pairs need and want to do something useful. This can be short-term goals like fixing a bug fast, but also long-term aspects like spreading code knowledge in the team. Developers can get really frustrated when they realize they did not achieve these things because they went down some rabbit hole. Skillful pair programmers manage to balance these concerns. Let's look at some examples to make this more concrete. I want you to meet Alex and Brady. It's Brady's first week at the company, and together with Alex, they want to start a new feature and show Brady some of the existing code along the way. However, the code does not work as Alex expected, and while trying to fix it, the pair jumps from one topic to the next. Brady would always notice something new and ask Alex about it. Alex would then try to explain it, just before Brady notices the next thing. That cycle repeats over and over for 10 minutes. This way, the pair stays together, but none of the topics ever get finished. The two were getting lost in the weeds, were being good on the part of togetherness, but low on expediency. Chris and Devin here have a different situation. Devin already started working on a new feature. Chris looks at the code and notices some problems with the design. Devin wants to know more about what's wrong, but Chris is too immersed in the topic and keeps ignoring Devin's questions. After 2 minutes, Chris proposes just to give it a go. Devin agrees. But none of his questions were answered, so Devin does not have a good understanding of what's going on. This pattern repeated multiple times over the session. Such behavior might be expedient in the short term because the feature gets implemented quickly by competent Chris. But at the same time, their togetherness is much reduced, which in this case means missed learning opportunities for Devin. If only it was clearer what Chris was doing all along. In other terms, Chris was losing their partner Devin. Okay, so you might say Chris simply did not communicate enough. That's true, but pair programming is not as simple as just talk more. Pair programmers can also drown their partner by explaining too much. Francis here is really annoyed by Elliot's explanation on why the recent code change was such a good idea, what the code smell was, what could have happened otherwise, and so on. All things that Francis already knew about. Such drowning of the partner is bad for togetherness and expediency. So, how do better pairs behave? Good pairs notice when they took a wrong turn or two before they are getting lost in the weeds. They notice and work their way back to the main topic. This is relatively easy because it takes only one of the partners to notice it. To avoid getting lost or drowned by one's partner is more tricky, because you might not be able to make your partner change their behavior. A technique for the partner is to be explicit about which topics to address. Take a look at that function? No thanks. Want to learn more about OSGI class loading? Yes, please. This avoids losing and drowning, because it maintains togetherness and allows for an expedient session. So, what about the initial statement that pair programming requires some time to get good at? We did not track developers for longer periods of time to see how their behavior changes. But it's still interesting to note that pair programming experience alone is not all that matters. For instance, after their bumpy start with all that branching of topics, Alex and Brady had a very nice pair programming session with high expediency and togetherness. And, in fact, this was Brady's very first pair programming session. Chris, on the other hand, lost Devin while implementing a new feature and did not even notice it. The 6 years of pair programming experience apparently did not prevent that from happening. Taking all the pieces together, it's worth noting that most of our analyzed pairs work quite well overall. There are likely many more ways in which pair programming can go wrong, which we simply did not see in our data. The data we collected and analyzed also provides only a narrow window into the pair programming career of a software developer. Overall, we still hope that our insights into the mechanisms of what makes pair programming work will be helpful for practitioners and will guide further qualitative research in that area. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm now happy to answer your questions.
Hello, everyone. I'm Daniela Damian, Session Chair for the paper entitled Two Elements of Pair Programming Skill. And I'm here with authors Franz Zieris and Lutz Brechelt. Thank you for a great presentation, Franz. I really liked your slides and the animation is very clear. I'm going to take the first question from Jorge. Do you think there's a cultural influence on the results, for instance, the different geographical locations? Sorry, I don't know if, I think that's for your question. For your paper.
I don't think that the location plays a huge role. We have an impact of the workspace awareness between the two partners and how well they are able to deal with workspace awareness issues. For instance, if you have distributed pair programming versus co-located pair programming, and some pairs might have problems with the distributed mode, whereas others might work quite well in this distributed setting. We only have pairs recorded from Germany and Norway, so there are not many locations to choose from in our data. So there might be differences which we haven't seen, simply because of our data collection.
Good for future work. Study this.
But in terms of nationalities, there were some more. Yeah.
And I apologize, I missed the first question from Max. Did you look at differences in the pair programming related to gender, which was also related to Alex's question?
Yeah, so we had mixed gender pairs as well as same gender pairs, but the differences between these pairs were not as big as between other types of pairs. So there are differences, but the gender differences are not the first one that spring to your attention. So differences in how long the developers have been working in their system, for instance, has a much larger impact on how they behave in their session, how they are able to cope with different problems.
What about
in different words? Let me put it differently. We looked for gender differences and saw nothing. There might be some, but we didn't see them.
Right. And Alex is continuing. He says, what about personality? Are the pair partners supposed to be somehow compatible in terms of personality for success?
Possibly, but we did not issue any personality tests. We only have the impression of how the developers behaved in these maybe 2-hour sessions. And for many of our recorded pairs, we have no idea how they would behave otherwise. So we have only a very narrow window in their behavior, and we simply cannot assess whether that's their personality or their day-to-day form. So yes, personality might play a role, but we have no idea which.
What about existing personal interrelationships? Jasmine is asking, what about between how close to people are and how well PP works? Two close friends more likely to work well together than two strangers.
Yeah, so we had pairs who've never paired together, who've never met each other before and worked quite well. In other pairs where the two partners have known each other and worked together in the same team for many years, but did not like pairing with each other. So yes, it might help if you know your partner and understand their ways of talking and so on, the kinds of jokes that they make. But it's not all there is. So there are many more aspects.
Thank you, Martin, for a great question. Did you find further problem patterns beyond the 3 ones that you presented?
Not so much problem patterns, but ways to improve. So there are differences in how well pairs deal with different types of problems. So there are pairs who can cope with language barriers quite well, and others struggle with it. But they still manage to get a good pair programming session out of it. So it's not enough for us to say that these are problematic patterns, but there are areas where there could be some repeating patterns of problems.
In the last 25 seconds left, a follow-up question from Timothy. He says, I've seen other patterns. G makes a statement that it has several interpretations when explaining rationale to H, or I is too shy to express when he or she needs further information. Did you notice these?
So we did not see shyness problems in our data. So our pairs felt comfortable.
Hi.